Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving straight into the absolutely fascinating science of rewiring our behavior. Whether you're looking to build a rock-solid new routine, or you're desperately trying to break an old, stubborn one, we're going to look at what the latest data actually says about how our brains work. So let's just jump right in, and we'll start by completely debunking a very common misconception.
Okay, let me ask you something right off the bat. How many days do you genuinely believe it takes to form a brand new habit? If you're like most of us, you probably just thought, oh, 21 days, obviously, right? It's this wildly popular idea. It's been floating around out there for decades, and people absolutely swear by it. But is it actually grounded in biology?
Well, brace yourself because the gap between that expectation and scientific reality is massive. A recent systematic review actually looked at 20 different studies involving over 2,600 participants. And the data showed that developing what scientists call automaticity, that ability to just do something effortlessly without even thinking about it, can actually take anywhere from just 4 days all the way up to a staggering 335 days. It completely depends on who you are and how complex the behavior is.
So yeah, that 21-day rule, it's usually a total myth. The scientific reality is that the median time to reach that habit automaticity for everyday things like eating healthy, drinking enough water, or exercising is actually 66 days. That's over 2 months. And honestly, this is exactly why so many of us fail. We expect these immediate, overnight results, but genuinely rewiring the brain requires so much more patience and consistency than we usually give ourselves credit for. So to make that 66-day journey a little easier, we really need to build a mental toolkit.
All right, Section 1, Building Better Daily Habits, Exploring the Huberman Neurobiology Framework. At the very core of Dr. Andrew Huberman's framework is this really interesting concept called limbic friction. Think of limbic friction as the biological resistance or the energy you need to exert to overcome your anxiety, procrastination, or just plain old fatigue to perform a new habit. And what's really fascinating here is that limbic friction isn't just a static thing. It actually fluctuates naturally based on your brain's built-in 24-hour neurochemical rhythms.
So how do we practically structure the perfect day around this? Well, Huberman divides the 24-hour cycle into 3 distinct phases. Phase 1 is that first 0 to 8 hours right after waking up. During this morning window, your brain and body are just flooded with elevated dopamine, adrenaline, and cortisol. You are naturally way more action-oriented. That makes this the absolute best time to tackle your highest friction habits, the ones that require intense focus and really heavy mental lifting. But as you transition into phase 2, which is roughly 9 to 15 hours after waking, your biology shifts gears. Your adrenaline drops and your serotonin levels naturally start to rise. What this means is you should really be scheduling your lower focus, lower friction habits here. It's the perfect sweet spot for looser physical pursuits like Zone 2 cardio, creative exploration, brainstorming, and just trying new things without that heavy pressure of perfect execution. Now let's combine that natural biological rhythm with some hard clinical data from the systematic review to really maximize our success. The science clearly shows that morning practices generally yield stronger habits. Furthermore, self-selecting your own goals rather than having someone else impose them on you massively boosts your follow-through. You can also use something called habit stacking. This is where you link a brand new behavior to an already established one, which significantly lowers that limbic friction we talked about. And finally, test your new habits in 21-day blocks to see what's actually sticking before you add more complexity to your routine. So while 21 days won't make a habit perfectly automatic, it is an excellent window to build that initial momentum. But let's be real for a second. What happens when we inevitably mess up and miss a day? Usually our first instinct is to just punish ourselves. Well, let's look at operant conditioning. This is the psychological process of influencing behavior by reinforcing desired outcomes rather than punishing negative ones. The clinical data makes it incredibly clear here. Beating yourself up for missing a habit completely fails as a long-term strategy. We literally have to shift our focus entirely to positive reinforcement.
And the impact of making that mental shift is massive. A staggering statistic from California Mental Health reveals that positive reinforcement enhances behavior consistency by up to 40% compared to punishment-based methods. Think about that. When you reward yourself, and hey, that can be just an internal acknowledgement or a brief feeling of relief, you stimulate the brain's reward system. That cements the neural bond between your action and feeling good.
Moving right along to Section 2, Mastering Your Cravings, Breaking the Habit Loop.
To dismantle those stubborn bad habits, we really have to explore the psychology of cravings. And look, if you take away just one single thing from this explainer today, let it be this highly reassuring scientific fact. Cravings are completely temporary. Research consistently shows that if left unmet, intense cravings peak and naturally subside within a 20 to 30-minute window. If we can just weather that brief storm, the intense, overwhelming urge will significantly diminish. You do not have to fight it forever, you literally just have to wait it out.
So the big question is, how do we weather that storm effectively? Enter the Mindful Institute's 5-step urge surfing technique. This is an absolutely incredible framework for riding out cravings without actually acting on them. Let's slow down for just a second. I want you to bring a personal craving or a bad habit you really want to break to mind right now. Just hold it in your head as we walk through this process together.
Okay, the first 3 steps are all about building awareness. Step 1. Recognize the urge and actually name it out loud. Say something like, I'm having the urge to eat when I'm not hungry. Believe it or not, this creates immediate mental distance. Step 2. Locate the physical sensation. Where does this craving actually live in your body right now? Is it a tight chest? Maybe a flutter in your stomach? Step 3. Describe that sensation without judgment. Don't label it as bad or dangerous. Just observe it objectively, kind of like a scientist looking at raw data.
Once you've established that solid awareness, you move to steps 4 and 5 to ground yourself. Anchor your attention right in the present moment using a simple 4-4-4 breathing technique. That's inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4. As you breathe, I want you to visualize that intense craving as a giant ocean wave. It builds, it crests, and then, inevitably, it breaks and recedes right back into the foam. You are the surfer. You're simply riding on top of the sensation until it completely passes.
And over time, this urge surfing fundamentally alters your brain's wiring. In the old loop, a trigger led straight to an addictive action for some quick, temporary relief. But this new loop inserts a really crucial mindful pause. By surfing the urge for just those 20 minutes, you break that automatic link and replace it with an intentional choice. This physical pause actually rewires the brain's long-term association. It's brilliant.
Of course. We're only human. Sometimes the wave crashes right over us and we still give in to the bad habit. So what do we do then? Dr. Huberman offers a great, immediate, actionable tool for breaking the loop, even after you've slipped up. His rule is this: the moment you realize you've engaged in the bad habit, immediately perform a positive replacement behavior. Literally stop right there and do 10 jumping jacks. What this does is it scrambles the brain's reward sequence, ensuring that the bad habit is instantly followed by a positive, albeit somewhat physically demanding action. Now, if you're sitting there wondering if all this actually translates to real-world results, well, the meta-analysis data proves that combining these structural and mindfulness interventions truly works across the board. Whether you're trying to fix your diet, attempting to increase your physical activity, or simply trying to remember to floss your teeth more consistently, these scientific techniques generate moderate to large positive effects. They're universally applicable to pretty much any habit you can think of. Ultimately, the whole heart of this framework really boils down to this powerful quote from the Mindful Institute. A mindful approach can help address cravings by fostering awareness, enhancing emotional regulation, and empowering intentional responses. And guys, that is the true goal of behavior change. It really isn't about perfect discipline or just white-knuckling through the pain. It's about empowering yourself to live intentionally. Which brings us to the end of our journey today. I want to leave you with one final provocative question to think about. Armed with this biological framework and all these mindful techniques, what wave will you choose to surf today? I really challenge you to take this new toolkit and finally conquer a craving you previously thought was completely unbreakable. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.